And now for our feature presentation.
How about we just do our brand new segment first, which I've titled Sean Spears Hate / What's Up with Austin Theory this week.
Okay, this is my new favorite segment.
Yeah, this is your segment. I just want to get the Sean Spears hate out of the way, then we can roll on with the rest of the podcast.
Well, I really enjoyed Sean Spears this week.
On the Go Home show?
No, on. No, I don't want to talk about that. Where he's playing an anchor man.
Yeah, no, that's what I want to talk about.
I don't want to talk about that whatsoever.
He pretended to give a news brief on Dustin retiring and then immediately asks for a match.
Well, I've got here, Sean Spears continues to be a loser through the news thing as a step forward, not much for anybody else concerned. Why is Sean Spears now pretending to be a news anchor? Fucking loser. That's my note for it.
I hope this isn't a regular thing and this was just a one-time deal.
Well, it's the best thing that I've seen him do since he pretended that he meant to hit Cody that hard on purpose.
He just needs one solid thing. He's had like 4 gimmicks in AEW now. One thing and stick with it.
I think that Sean Spears is a walking example for any guy that comes from WWE and thinks he can phone it in. I think it clearly shows that AEW is not the place to mess around. Because Sean Spears was told over and over again during his WWE career that he was great, he was the next big thing, and Vince wasn't using him properly. But we've all learned from the past 6 to 8 months, I think Vince McMahon was on the money.
I don't hate this guy. I'm not really down on him. It's just he needs a spark again to really.
I disagree. I think he's finally found his role.
I know you do. That's why we have this segment of hate.
Well, if we want to quickly go into Double or Nothing, I think that you would have thought that I would have hated the comedy stuff with Sean Spears and Dustin Rhodes on the pay-per-view, but absolutely not.
Wow, I'm surprised you like that match. We'll get into it when we get into it.
I liked that match because I fucking hate Sean Spears.
What about Austin Theory? What's he been up to this week?
Austin Theory's doing okay. He's gone into the background of a new squad. And now
Selena's Sexy Men.
And now he's moved forward into a new squad where he does nothing and says nothing. But he has got a fancy new jacket.
That's a step in the right direction.
It is a step in the right direction, and he's not insulting my intelligence by appearing in a new group with absolutely no reason. He knows his job role, which is a job's worth. And he's hanging around Seth Rollins and doing nothing as a brainwashed, idiotic disciple, which is, I think, at this point, exactly where he should be.
I feel like his levels of charisma, that's where he's always going to be. He did a few things, not much, he did a few things on NXT. He didn't scream star power, let's just say that.
The guy's very young, though, and I think that this is a good place to put him. Do you remember when Batista was the servant of Reverend Devon?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yep.
Austin Theory's got time. Very happy in the Sean Spears Austin Theory hate. Everything is starting to slowly go back to normal, and they know their roles, sucker.
Well, with that out of the way, I want to get into NWA because you told me last week to check this out. So I checked out NWA Carneyland last Tuesday. That was really worth my time.
Well, you know that their promos always state now that they've gone from a punchline to a headline.
Yeah.
What did you think of that statement coming out of Carneyland?
Well,
because I personally think that more people enjoyed NWA currently when it was in Joe Exotic's backyard.
I think the joke's on them. We're not laughing with them, we're laughing at them, is what I feel.
I've got to admire them for attempting to do something during the coronavirus period, which is an empty wrestling show with a couple of fan wrestlers in the background. And let's face it, they're not doing that because they don't have the cash and they probably don't have body roster to have a crowd, and they don't even have the space to distance the crowd. So I can see why they're attempting to put something together, anything together, to keep their name out there.
Yeah, so it feels like this is just an excuse for them to get content out onto YouTube. I guess they've run out of pre-tape shows, And for whatever reason, like you said, maybe people, maybe money, then they're not recording any more live shows. I don't think this is the best way to keep their name out there. Nothing is better than something that's awful.
Yeah.
I think all wrestling fans, I mean, everyone in the world knows what we're going through right now. So if they just didn't post anything, that would be okay. Ring of Honor haven't done anything in a while. I'm still going to check them out once they start doing shows again. This isn't going to hurt them. I don't know. I feel this was a way for them to progress their stories and their characters. So it was just a load of skits, and none of it, as a casual of NWA, made any sense to me. And it all just seemed like a load of nonsense stitched together. And then the banter between Barrett and whoever their lead commentator isn't even very good. It's not entertaining. There was no comedy either.
It's
So
not entertaining. I don't think anybody asked for Stu Bennett as a talking circle.
it's I thought NWA was meant to be on like this realistic old school vibe anyway. So why have it seems like something Chikara or Pro Wrestling Guerrilla would do. And on that product it would probably crack a smile.
Taz on his podcast says he gets really upset when people use inside lingo, smark, mark, shoot, carney. This entire show feels like it's made by a Smart Mark wrestling fan for other Smart Mark wrestling fans. And Billy Corgan is kind of outing himself right now as a wrestling fan with a lot of money. And I don't think that it's conducive towards good business, because if you've got Nick Aldis and Eli Drake sitting there telling me, and in a later you've got Inside NWA with Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana. I don't know whether you went past Carneyland, but they have other shows which are basically, they're selling them as shows, but they're basically talking head podcasts. I watched a little bit of Inside NWA, and they're telling me about how Anderson, in their very last episode, Anderson was hurt, but he didn't really want to go about it, and then they had to change the booking. Is this clever to talk about the inside booking of an episode of NWA when you're 9 episodes deep?
It's a real slim line because someone like me, I love when wrestlers do talk about behind the scenes, but not when they're playing up the fact. So they're talking about jobbers and stuff like this. That's not fun. I remember Chris Jericho on his podcast was they were talking the step by step of one of the matches they had where someone was injured and they had to rewrite the match they had. And that was the most fantastic 10 minutes of a wrestling podcast I've ever heard. It was so interesting to know how they think, to know how not only they booked a story, but how they changed the story on the fly, and also how the referee was controlling the whole situation. Behind the scenes stuff like that sometimes is fantastic. Even when Jim Cornette, I'm not a fan of his, but he's obviously a great storyteller. And when he's talking about how to book a show, that stuff's really interesting.
Highspots.com does shoot interviews, right? These are things that are made meta outside of the wrestling circle for wrestling fans to try and peer a look through the curtain. Undertaker opening the curtain up after 30 years is a lot different from a company which is already financially struggling, who have been open for business for a year, letting us look behind their curtain when they haven't even stabilized their characters, when they haven't even cemented their storylines. They're showing us more about what's going on behind the scenes than they've actually given us footage over the past year.
Don't you think it would have been more interesting if they shot documentary style, but still kept it kayfabe? So the idea that Colt Cabana left us and make him, I don't want to say make him a heel because that's not his character, but like say this has really messed up our product. We got matches scheduled. Was he still a champion? Did he have to vacate a championship?
I actually didn't watch that last episode.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. They could have created a story out of him leaving, and rather than talking backstage, oh, this is how we had to rebook, this is how we should change things. Why not have a GM style character be heated about it and create something engaging out of it rather than just a 10-minute podcast?
I personally would have kept things quiet as they were. I was raving to you about the NWA 70th anniversary show that they put on YouTube for free. I was telling you to go watch it. It made me more excited to watch NWA when they put up an old event. Similarly, you told me you watched, I think, Superpower. You really enjoyed that. I know that they've run out of content. The content that they are now providing is not helping them whatsoever. I don't know whether did you actually go through what they were advertising? The Nick Aldis show, the Eli Drake show.
The Eli Drake show looked awful. I don't know. I don't know if that was kayfabe or if he's just got a wacky personality. That looked shite. The only thing I was interested coming out of this was the Nick Aldis thing. But again, that looked like it was just three wrestlers sat around having a laugh, talking about the old days. Don't think it's going to help NWA's product going forward, and I don't know how interesting it's going to be after 10, 15 minutes of them talking about the highlights of their career.
I watched 10, 20 minutes or so of these a time. The Nick Aldis show is three guys, as you said, sitting around telling wrestling road stories. The Eli Drake show is a one-man podcast in which Eli Drake basically talks about life, fun, or cuts a promo. The Inside
Is that
NWA,
interesting though?
no,
Okay.
Inside NWA is Billy Corgan, Dave Lagana, and the announcer sharing far too much about the inside of the business. All of these shows last over an hour, and I took a quick look through the viewings and the likes. You started with Carneyland, which is currently at 56,000 likes. So usually they're getting 180,000 likes or 180,000 views for wrestling videos, like actual wrestling.
But that makes sense. A non-wrestling show will always have less views than in-ring shows.
For sure. But you've got Carneyland at 56,000 views. Inside NWA was then posted, 17,000 views. Eli Drake was posted, 13,000 views. Nick Aldis was posted, 9,000 views. People, it's quite clear, even from the first week, that people are not interested in this stuff.
Yeah,
And-
that is a steep fall.
And the only thing that they are doing right now is damaging themselves. They're not even getting eyes on the product.
It shows how much they fucked up with that very first show because that was almost half of their usual viewers tuned into this show.
Yeah.
So so the interest was there, and if they had nailed it, if they'd done something exciting, something interesting, those people probably would have continued to watch the whole week's worth of stuff.
I think they managed to build it up so that it had a certain amount of intrigue to it because they refused to say anything about what it was or what it represented. But at the same time, they had basically started a Patreon account for people that wanted to be part of Carneyland or whatever. It was like a weird, interesting business dynamic that they're thrown at us. But the actual
Well, they're trying to bleed money out of this.
Oh yeah. They've got several layers of subscriber that you can put money into.
Jesus, I thought this was just to create content for YouTube. I didn't realize this was their actual business.
Yeah, they're so
That's even worse.
the highest level is to become a citizen of Carneyland. I don't know how
Oh.
much that costs, but that's the highest tier.
Jesus, I mean, that's just crap. I don't know what to say. Like, I thought it was bad when they were just using it as an excuse for some extra content just to keep their name in people's minds, but as an actual
No,
business move.
This is what I'm saying. This is why I'm pretty passionate about how I feel like they're going down the wrong avenue. Because you know
Totally.
I'm a massive fan of Billy Corgan and I really want NWA to work. In a lot of ways more than you do. This is completely the wrong move. The worst thing I can think of out of any of the products we're currently watching.
If this is the direction they're going, and I think they're going to kill themselves.
Yeah. Can I go into actual Carney now? So I've just read that Jeff Jarrett's GFW is suing Anthem's Impact Wrestling for
I read this earlier today as well.
the unauthorized use of his GFW amped tapes.
Yep.
Which he accused them of then refusing to return the masters and deleting them.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It might be true. We don't know.
No, but what did you see those GFW amped tapes?
I think I saw highlights.
I can't believe that they might cost somebody $1 million.
It wasn't that good, was it? Because it never took off.
It was bad.
I know he couldn't get TV rights and he was struggling to sell it. And then they eventually became an Indian promotion for a couple of months.
Yeah, they had that whole thing. And they're also doing headline shows in Norfolk Town Centre, where Jeff Jarrett was appearing with Nick Aldis because it's Nick Aldis' hometown. And that was their big UK tour. They went to Norfolk.
I remember that because we thought about going, and then we were like, not sure it's worth the drive.
Yeah. Well, apparently they didn't sell out in Norfolk either. If you can't sell out Norfolk, then I don't really understand why Impact would potentially pay $1 million in fines for this product. It just
Do you remember? Do you remember when he was struggling for money? He sunk all his money into this new promotion, and then I don't know if he went bankrupt or whatever. So he started doing a pyramid scheme on gold.
oh god, yeah. Jeff Jarrett really lands on his feet, doesn't he? Always. He's always a Hall of Famer 2 years later. Nobody cares. And he'll
Yeah.
probably make a nice dime out of Impact.
So is he suing Impact or is he suing Anthem?
He's suing Anthem
Okay.
on the division of Impact. So
Yeah. So
basically, if Anthem gets sued, they're taking the money out of Impact.
okay. So either way, it's gonna hurt Impact quite a lot.
Yeah, it's not good.
Their production value is already wailing month by month.
I was just looking up the GFW shows. One of them was in Epic Dalston. Another one was in Exeter Corn Exchange, Sports Connection in Coventry, and Club Domain in Blackpool.
Just the most iconic of venues around the country.
And then they decided to go to Al Mariq Stadium in Sudan.
Okay. Cool. I mean, I'm not sure why they took a brand new product international anyway. Surely they should have just stayed in Tennessee and built a follow, or Florida, wherever,
All I
and
know
just
is
built a massive following there.
I want a T-shirt.
What then, or now, all these
Now
years
I
later?
want a GFW T-shirt. I want to turn it into a cult following, despite the fact they've only got 4 episodes.
You know, Impacts now they have like a From the Vault, and they show a load of random TNA highlights.
Isn't that the
And
majority of their show?
at the moment, they only do like once per show. But I always find it funny that they're showing AJ or Joe or Kurt Angle or Sting. They're never using it to promote people that are actually on their roster.
Oh, they do it shamefacedly now as well. On their social media, they only put up clips of people that are usually trending for something that's happened in WWE.
Why does that make business sense? Because if a casual sees their videos and it's Christopher Daniels versus AJ, both in their prime, doing an awesome match, then you'd be like, oh, I'll go check out AJ in WWE. I'll go check out Daniels in AEW. You're taking eyes off your product instead of bringing eyes into your product.
As much as Michael Elgin doesn't want to admit it, I think what they're actually doing is no longer selling their current product. They use their current product to sell the network. Back in the day, in the music industry, albums were not made to sell the tour. The tour was made to sell the album. Now it's the other way around because one makes less money than the other. Impact, I think, has given up on the idea of ever getting back on pay-per-view and making money from it. So they realize that they've got a load of old stars on their $7.99 subscription service and sell that more than the product that they put on every week.
As a business, if that's what makes them money, then I guess that's what they got to do. But that's a sad situation.
I think short term it's paying Josh Matthews wages.
Oh fuck, Josh Matthews.
Well, you've had a month of Impact, haven't you? Impact Plus, you got it for free.
Yeah, I ages ago, way back.
Did you watch 2007 stuff or 2017 stuff?
You know what I watched.
Well,
I watched 2006 to 2009.
I think they're probably going to have to get rid of their 2017-18 stuff now because Alberto Del Rio's face is all over that.
Possibly, but then, like you said, they've got no shame. They might just leave it in there but not promote it.
Look at this rapist we used to have as champion.
Jesus.
I can't see putting it past Don Callis. He might actually go for it.
So wrestling shows in the UK. This is a bittersweet moment for us. Fighter Fest, AEW's June pay-per-view, was set to be in London this year. Obviously, they can't travel at the moment, so it's likely that they're not coming to the UK this year. But how fun would that have been?
I reckon this probably would have been in quite a small venue, wouldn't it?
No, they were planning the O2.
O2 for Fighter Fest?
Yeah, they were planning the O2. They wanted 25,000 people.
That's pretty ambitious.
It's ambitious, but you know what? For their first one, I reckon they could do it.
They're also on Freeview over here. That could have changed the face of the game.
I think they want to become the number one promotion over here. I think that's what they're aiming to do.
Do you think that's a good business plan, though? Because
I think it is.
Well, there was another company that tried to do that.
TNA.
Yeah, who are now selling their network of guys that used to be with them.
But I don't think breaking the UK is what caused TNA's major struggles.
No, but they at one point focus a little bit too much on breaking the UK as opposed to breaking open the US.
Yeah, they did, and I don't know what year it was, but there was one year that their house shows in the UK was making them more money than their house shows in the US. I don't know whether that was their doing by choice or whether they were just rolling with what they had.
I really
But
think that AEW should focus right now on having a conversation with ITV, who are still sticking them on at the 1 a.m. spot on ITV4, primetime channel there. And if they can just work with ITV a tiny bit to get closer to like a 10, 11 p.m. spot on like ITV2 even, they could be in massive competition with WWE, who have now moved to BT Sport, which I don't know many people that have that. Do you?
no, I had it when it first came out for the UFC, but it's extortionate prices. I think only people that are hardcore football fans sign on to that so they can get all the football matches.
I don't think you're buying the current product of Raw and SmackDown on BT Sport then.
No, not at all. Maybe it's a case that ITV want AEW to prove themselves, and that if they do sell out a 20,000 arena show, then they'll get that time slot on ITV. ITV will see that they're a big enough product in this country.
It does kind of feel like ITV have already given up with AEW though.
I don't think they've given up. I think they just haven't proven themselves in this country. Wrestling has a massive following in this country, but unfortunately, we haven't had a massive promotion in a very, very long time.
British Boot
So,
Camp.
sure. And that was on a TV channel that was all about game shows.
I really miss Challenge. Anyway,
But what I'm saying is, I think a lot of broadcasters aren't willing to give wrestling decent airtime because they don't realize maybe how much of a following wrestling has in this country.
it's quite clear ITV want wrestling. They see it as a property that made them a lot of money a long time ago because they rebooted World of Sport. I think they even got James Corden involved. They spent a lot of money on it. It lasted 3 or 4 episodes and then it died again.
Yeah, they
Now,
even had Jim Ross on it.
yeah, a couple of years later, they've got AEW. They see it as a viable piece of entertainment, but it seems like they're very picky about what they're actually showing and why. And I just feel like ITV might have realized what AEW actually is, and the fact that they can't put it on necessarily at 9:30 in the morning for a kids show, and now they've gotten frustrated with it and thrown it away, just like every other wrestling entity they've had.
Yeah, quite possibly. But I'm excited for when they do their first show over here. So it looks like the pay per view has been pushed from the end of June to the end of July, which is quite interesting because at the end of June, all of the releases from WWE's are now allowed to compete after their 90-day no complete cause.
Oh, we're definitely seeing a couple turn up.
Well, looking at Rusev,
I read a really good idea. Well, not necessarily really good, but something that I chuckled at. Sammy Guevara keeps getting run over by things, right? Well, how about he finally gets run over by
oh
the
god, oh
tank?
god.
Like they play the golf cart spot for the 4th, 5th time, and then Matt Hardy swerves right, and Rusev comes in with his tank, and finally just squashes Sammy like a bug, and that's that. Like a lot with AEW, I think that would make for a funny moment, which they would then have to work themselves out of, which is a perfect segue onto Double or Nothing 2020.
Let's do this. Let's go play by play through this pay per view. I think, in a weird twist, you enjoyed this show more than I did somehow.
You didn't like a lot of things on this?
I didn't dislike it. It was definitely the best show during the Corona era. I think a couple of weeks ago you called me an AEW apologist. So I think now I'm overly critical.
I don't want to take something away from you that you like, especially during a time like this.
No, I had a lot of fun with the show. I was assuming you wouldn't because it was very weapon and brawling heavy show. There was only I think 3 matches which stayed in the ring and were very mat focused, and out of those 3, only one of them was a good match.
Okay, including the pre-show, there was 9 matches on the card. I expected to like about 3 of them, but I've actually come out of this saying 6 of the 9 matches I rated 3.5 stars or over.
That's good. That's good.
I'm shocked as well.
So you know this marks 1 year of AEW. This is like the anniversary show.
Yeah, and I did actually watch Double or Nothing 2019, and it's quite clear to me that they have improved significantly since that time. Because I think that was actually the last AEW show pay-per-view that I fully focused my attention on. I watched the Lights Out, John Moxley, Kenny Omega stuff, but at that point, AEW really wasn't for me. One thing I've noticed with the company is they are actually willing to listen to people. And I know that AEW fans have been telling me that for a very long time now. As a normal wrestling fan who's grown up on WWE and doesn't go straight into the Bucks merch, and it has been refreshing to see a product which is continually changing, dropping stuff that they know is not great, listening to what people have to say, even if it takes a little bit too long. So, like,
Yeah, they're trying all sorts of things. Tons of I feel like they don't know 100% exactly what their product is. They're trying to merge lots of different ingredients to come up with the perfect show.
and this can sometimes be a great thing because it puts lots of different eyes on the product, but it can sometimes turn into pure TNA shit. And I witnessed both on this show.
I feel like it is getting better and it's becoming more palatable to all types of wrestling fans as we go through. So let's start with this thing. On the pre-show, we had Private Party versus Best Friends for the number one contendership for the tag team titles.
Yeah. Just before that, I've got a note saying that everything Jake the Snake had a little promo there where Lance Archer was beating the shit out of a toilet with a sledgehammer.
Was this on the pre-show? I
Yeah,
thought this was on the pay-per-view.
I thought, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Everything Jake the Snake does feels like he's getting himself over, and I really am glad that we don't have to talk about the Go Home show which I hated. But that Arn Anderson, Jake the Snake head-to-head conference was the worst thing I've seen on AEW TV.
It was just really unnecessary. And again, like we've been saying, it just takes all of the spotlight off the guys actually having the match.
I think Jake the Snake is actually getting more and more outrageous in the fact that at this point he seems to hardly even mention Lance Archer's name. He's just purely
Yeah.
going into business for himself.
And he stands in front of Lance Archer. It seemed like whether they did it on purpose or by accident, they were teasing a match between Jake the Snake and Arn Anderson.
What Jake the Snake was teasing it. Jake the Snake teased it throughout, and then Arn thought, "Hey, fuck it, yeah, let's go make some money, kid." You know, like they got.
Yeah.
It was kind of like watching Ric Flair, like modern day Ric Flair, get in the ring. He's just completely oblivious to anything around him or
I feel like
anybody.
that's definitely not going to happen, though.
No, but I think Jake the Snake is trying to make something happen, and it's definitely not Lance Archer.
Arn Anderson mentions later on that Lance Archer can smash up toilets all he wants. That doesn't scare him or Cody. That doesn't necessarily mean he's a good wrestler.
Arn Anderson tried with the material he was given by Jake the Snake, and I did notice that in the video packages for the TNT Championship, that meeting between the two was shown, I think, for about 2 or 3 seconds. When I think the original plan was for that to be shown prominently, because otherwise there would have been no reason for it to have happened.
Yeah. Anyway, so this first match on the show, on the pre-show, what did you think?
They won me over, honestly. I
For
went into
Private
this
Party?
both. I went into this match not wanting to really see it. I knew that I wasn't particularly going to enjoy it. As usual, I couldn't help but notice that Private Party cannot sell at all. They either hold their heads or play dead. There's no in between. I don't particularly like Best Friends. I don't like the style that I knew these two were going to put together. But by the end of it, I thought that both teams had a lot of potential. I thought that Trent Beretta specifically stood out, and they managed to entertain me without going too far and deep into a spot fest.
I felt it was a good match, but it wouldn't have been out of place on a Dynamite. There was nothing special about it. The longer it went on, the more obvious it became that Private Party are young and they are rookies, and they botched a lot of flourishes.
Yeah, I think Best Friends actually did a very good job of slowing them down enough to get some basic wrestling out of them. They're like too giddy, bro. They're too eager to flip and flop everywhere because they think that that's what's going to get them over. When all they need to do sometimes is slow down and hold their arm instead of their head, double over instead of play dead.
Yeah, I think this is the first AEW match I've watched where I thought, okay, this is too many flips now. It was taking away from the match. But I will say, the amount of botches they did and the amount of time Best Friends saved it, it really made them look like amazing veterans.
Yeah, they controlled the pace successfully. They tried the best they could to get out of Private Party some semblance of some babyface fire. And in the end, I think they actually did save it. They saved it.
A nice little addition to the match is Private Party hit Crime Time's G6 finisher.
And what a finisher that is. I don't remember the Crime Time doing it, but that is such a cool tag team move.
And I thought it was nice that they included that.
I,
Um,
there's another thing that I'm going to go into later about maybe tone deaf timing concerning Shag Gaspard's death, which I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, we're going to get onto that
But I
probably
did
in
find
just a
it
second.
I did find it slightly strange that they put the Rest in Peace Shag Gaspard tribute to footage of a sea on a
Yeah,
beach.
so this is the main show opening, the opening video. I was going to talk about how it's very obvious WWE are much better at doing these videos than AEW are. I kind of feel like AEW shouldn't be trying this hard. But yeah, then they do have a memoriam at the end of the video to Shag Gaspar, and it's the image of sea washing up on a beach, which
Why?
is, I think it was meant to be a touching note. It didn't come across as that.
The only thing that it reminded me of was Shad Gaspard got drowned. That's the.
The thing is,
But I don't want to be blunt about it, but that's if you're showing me a rest in peace of a guy that was drowned at sea. Why would you then show a beach and a sea in which his life was taken? It just didn't
yeah,
make any sense to me.
so they didn't need to do this, but it was nice that they did, I guess.
I would really like to think that this is because the wrestlers wanted it to be there. People actually felt deeply about it because I saw in the opening ladder match, Scorpio Sky and Kaz bumped fists and said this is for Shad. So
Yeah.
quite clearly, the guys on the roster did feel that it needed to be done. I really hope that these things aren't being done to make them look like a major wrestling promotion in which they have to comment on all wrestling events because they have become the voice of wrestling, because that's a very egocentric idea that they have to comment on wrestling deaths because they are wrestling. I really hope that that's not happening. I really hope that this was just a genuine tribute.
No, I don't think it's that at all. The guy was heavily respected throughout the whole industry. A lot of people have said he had other products and tie-ins, so I guess a lot of the guys backstage did have a personal connection with him. What I mean is, on TV, nobody had a direct connection with him as a character. But and also the guy went out as a fucking hero. He saved his son and sacrificed himself. So
Yeah.
I think it was fitting. It was just a bit weird how they went about it.
It's quite clear from Twitter as well that he seemed to be one of the few extremely nice guys in wrestling. Everybody from all over the planet has come out. Every wrestler from every country has come out and said a small moment that they had with him, which changed their lives for the better.
So coming out of this, or I think just before this, Moxley has a promo on his main event match. I just wanted to bring up this promo. It was nothing particularly exciting, but it feels like an absolute shoot because he says what I think we're all thinking. He says that he did not care about the leader of the Dark Order. It wasn't even on his radar. But he was excited to see what Brody Lee would do with a fresh start in AEW. And he's not even pissed off with Brody Lee's actions. He's just very disappointed in him.
I thought this was an excellent video package.
But doesn't that just feel like what the fans are saying?
Yeah, and I thought it played into Moxley's character, who is, I think, shown as a real life crazy man who loves wrestling and hurting people and doesn't give a damn about the storylines. And the fact that he mentioned Brody Lee as a guy that he wants to get in the ring with, as opposed to the cult leader of the Dark Order, and he wants to face Brody Lee specifically, I don't think did any harm to Brody Lee's gimmick, and it also built up. And just overall, generally, this video package and everything else they did on this show really saved what to me was a match that I was not looking forward to whatsoever.
Oh, it definitely saved his character, definitely. And so after that video package, we'll go straight into that ladder match.
I just want to mention before I get on to shit show that AEW, I think, are very, very good at doing tiny things. Just one thing that I noticed that I really enjoyed was the fact that at the end of the pre-show, they announced the announcers coming out, sat them down, they had a little chat, and the show started. Small things like that make such a difference from a massive robotic machine in which the same thing happens over and over and over again. And I know that announcers in WWE have their theme music and they come out to the crowd. But when we see that, it feels organic. Everybody is respected in their job, just the same way that the refs' names are announced. They have a little speech. They say you can shake hands if you want. Just those tiny, tiny concepts to me build up the brand as a competitive piece of entertainment.
It's just adding to the fact that they're trying to portray themselves as a sport.
And it works.
Now, before we get on to this ladder match, I just want to talk to you about the concept.
You're trying to talk me down from how I'm feeling about it, or?
Well, you never get this heated about Money in the Bank ladder matches, which are usually spot fest, although WWE's version of a spot fest. And I get that this maybe was too much, but it was meant to be a car crash ladder match.
But they failed at a car crash ladder match. That's one of the most one of the biggest frustrations that I have with this match is not the fact I went into this knowing that it would be a spot fest that I didn't enjoy, but they didn't even do the spot fest properly.
Okay, well that's all I wanted to hear. That you went into this with the right mindset. That's all I wanted to hear. Now you can have your rant.
I can see my vocals getting louder. I can see them bracketing. I did not like this match.
What did you think about every single competitor cutting a promo immediately before the match?
I didn't enjoy, but I thought the opening 10 minutes were fine. I've written down that it was the first time I've ever enjoyed anything about Jimmy Havoc. I loved his blood-spattered white suit, eyeliner, his like blood eyeliner. I loved the fact that they had Kip Sabian next to him in like some weird mansion, even if it is a chubby middle-aged goth hanging around with like a young lad. I don't really still don't understand that apart from we're British, mate. But
that's all it is. It's just I've nicknamed them the English clique.
Yeah, you guys grew up in the same town, didn't you? Put them together.
The same tiny island.
Well, it's like that League of Nations thing where they had Sheamus and they had Wade Barrett, and then
that was awful.
They put a Mexican in there just because they weren't American. I quite enjoyed them doing a pre-match promo. Thought Daniels did very well building up the two SCU guys, and it was all going well. I was enjoying myself.
So after these promos, it starts, interestingly, with Kaz and Sky. When I first saw it, I thought, okay, this is interesting. And then there was my thinking, is if Kaz and Sky don't immediately go for a case and for the chip and help each other win, they just decide you can have it or you could have it. Why would they fight each other? Why would they not just wait 2 minutes, stay fresh for the third guy?
Okay, typical overthinking and underthinking at the same time. Maybe I'm stupid, but when they both came out, I didn't even think about the fact that they would help each other out. I just thought that they would shake hands like Jeff and Matt Hardy and go at it for 2 minutes. Then JR says, you might be thinking that they're just going to go get it. And I thought, well, no, I wasn't thinking that, but now I am.
But I was thinking that. I thought that was the most logical thing to do. This match is over straight away.
But doesn't this is the very point, right? Whether you're already thinking it or whether you're not, but are then reminded of it, what was the point of doing it in the first place?
And that's my point exactly. Why have these two start? They should have just had someone else start because there was no storyline reason. They didn't even play into it very well. So they should have just had Scorpio Sky start with Kip Sabian and Kaz come in later, or the other way around, whatever.
They don't even have a crowd there to say, wow, they're tag team partners. Like, there's absolutely no logical reason to do it whatsoever.
Or they could have used it as a clever way to hide them going around setting up ladders for future spots.
They could have done that, or
because why would they fight each other for 2 minutes? It makes no sense.
If they really, really wanted this spot to happen, why didn't they do it with other guys already in the ring? Because this was going to happen anyway. They're both in the match, so eventually they're going to face each other.
And in fact, it did happen later in the match. They played on it, but then there was no payoff. We'll get to it in a second.
You remember when Bischoff used to finish WCW pay-per-views before they were actually finished to show off the fact that anything could happen? This felt a lot like that, and it was both mindless and idiotic.
So the third entrant is Kip Sabian, and Havoc enters the ring from behind and hits Kaz and Sky with a ladder. Havoc gets German suplexed onto the ladder.
No problem with any of this. It's bland. It's not something that I found particularly interesting, but it didn't make me get very angry.
I think that's the quote of this match. It was very bland. It didn't hit the tones it should have done.
I'm always confused as to whether I think Joey Janela has something special about him or whether I'm actually wrong and he's a talentless hack. I can never tell how I feel about him.
I think that's what he borderlines on. I think that's just his character.
He did have line of the night though. He shouted, "Fuck you, motherfucker."
Yeah, someone hit him with a ladder or something.
Yeah, Brian Cage.
Darby Allin is the fourth entrant.
This is where the whole thing goes to shit.
He dives around all over the place for a little while, and then he sets up Kaz on a ladder. He climbs up the biggest ladder he can find with his skateboard in hand, jumps off. Kaz moves out of the way, and he goes crashing through the ladder and takes himself out for pretty much the entire match.
I get that Darby Allin is suicidal, genocidal, homicidal maniac. I get that he's doesn't care, young punk youth that just goes to maim somebody or whatever. This was such a stupid spot. It could have really hurt him, and it put him out of the match for like 25 fucking minutes. It didn't do anything. I don't think that was particularly cool visual. It just made Darby Allin look stupid as fuck. There was no point to it, no reason to it, no rhyme to it. And this, I guarantee that Darby Allin went up to somebody and said, "Hey, can I jump off a ladder on this skateboard? Because I think it'll look cool." And somebody went, "Yeah, man, sure, whatever, do your thing." And that's exactly the problem with AEW. There's no one there to say, "This is stupid. This will not do anything for you. This will make you look worse." And we don't advise it.
Well, Jeff Hardy jumped off a massive ladder and took himself out in the TLC matches. What makes this different?
Because they always had a meaning. They were never straight away. They always took somebody else out. Take that massive spot where Jeff Hardy takes out Edge. I think it was WrestleMania 23 or something. First of all, amazing visual. It's gone down in history. People remember it. Second of all, I think he was feuding with Edge at the time. He took out his nemesis. Thirdly, it was like 3/4 of the way through the match after they had already introduced themselves in the match and vied for the contract a couple of times. Darby Allin did nothing, walked around for a minute or two, then did that spot and took himself out for pretty much the whole thing. When he's supposed to be the favorite.
So I think the idea behind this was that they want to create a highlight reel to use later down the line. It's just one big spot that they can use in a video package.
It didn't even look good. If they wanted a one big spot to put in a video package, they already got that at the main event. This didn't look good. It didn't prove anything, and it just made your top babyface in this match look like a complete moron.
I mean, specifically a highlight reel for Darby Allin.
I think he's done enough by getting his coffin drop, man. I just thought this was senseless. It was pointless, senseless, dangerous, and it didn't make anybody look better.
Yeah. So the fifth entrant, and I know you hate him, is Orange Cassidy to the commentary desk and asks the commentators how he wins the match.
That was pretty funny.
Then he goes into the ring and he's trying to work out how to set up a ladder. The commentators are selling it like he knows how to set up a ladder. He just can't be bothered. He wants someone to do it for him.
So this is where my goodwill was completely and utterly lost. You go from your top babyface in the match basically committing suicide, not turning up whatsoever again until right at the end, to a comedy character who had, in my opinion, pretty much more face time in this match than any other competitor, trying to set up a ladder for 2.5 minutes. I didn't find it funny. I found it, quite frankly, pretty torturous, and waited for the next entrant, who then went and turned out to be fucking Colt Cabana. And then do you know what happened straight after Colt Cabana?
What
Marco
happened?
fucking stunned. I was
Yeah.
done. All my goodwill was lost. That was it. I just fucking struggled through the rest of this match for as long as possible. There are so many. I know you want to do play by play, but there are so many things that annoyed me in this. One after the other.
Saving grace is Colt Cabana got all of maybe 3 offensive moves in this thing. He was just a body bag.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind that. But it was just the 1, 2, 3, 4 pop. It was the Darby Allin stupidity, followed by the Orange Cassidy stupidity, followed by a guy I hate. Like after I've already dealt with Jimmy Havoc, and then Marco stunt. I mean, even you, right, at this point, you have to admit that whatever you originally saw in Marco stunt, it's worn out, bro. I'm not interested. I never was interested, but surely the people that were interested are no longer interested.
Yeah, because it's the exact opposite of my feelings of the rest of his team. So you said no one comes out of this match looking great, and I agree with you. Apart from Luchasaurus, he got in a lot of cool offense. He did quite a few big spots. I would say he looks the coolest character coming out of this match.
I hardly even remember him. My lasting memory of this match is Orange Cassidy with his hands in his pockets, looking up. That's all I can remember from this match, really.
I usually really like Orange Cassidy. I find him funny, but I think his comedy character shouldn't have had a place in this match. It wasn't necessary.
The whole thing became a farce. I feel really sorry for Brian Cage. This was his big moment. They even treated him like shit.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, let's skip that. The 7th entrant is Joey Janela. The 8th entrant is Luchasaurus. But then the mystery entrant, number 9, is Brian Cage. And he walks out with Taz. So this is what I guess Taz has been hinting at with Darby Allin, that he wants to become a manager. Darby Allin turned him down the last couple of weeks, so he's gone and found himself a big bad meathead instead.
Not that this matters, because Darby Allin has been treated as a jobber throughout the match and is nowhere to be seen pretty much when Brian Cage comes out. So there was no need to have Taz talk to Darby Allin and then get a big guy to go beat him up. And they tried very weakly to have like a little Darby Brian thing at the end, but it didn't even make any sense. There was no point to it. Darby was just running in and running out again as usual. I had to admit, it got me into the match a little bit. You know, I'm a massive Taz mark. Always happy to see his face. I loved his little orange towel. Wasn't that visual of Brian Cage tearing a ladder apart so cool?
Yeah, so Brian Cage came into this match and he looked like an absolute monster for a few minutes. He took everyone out, did some cool spots, and then everyone teamed up on him, buried him under ladders, tables, and a propped poker chip.
And then he
And
was gone.
he was out of the match for, I don't know, it felt like
A
forever.
long
10
time.
minutes maybe. So it's his big debut, and he's not even really in this thing.
The whole connection with him and Darby Allin is through Taz. Darby Allin's not really in this thing, and when he is, he just gets beaten up or thrown away. In a Royal Rumble, when you get a massive guy like Viscera or coming in, or Big Show or someone, you get the guys to like all push him over out of the ropes and eliminate him, which is what they did to Brian Cage. But the people that do that in the Royal Rumble to people like the Big Show are jobbers. So effectively, you're telling me that everybody in this match is a jobber, and Darby Allin has taken himself out.
Yeah, I can see you thinking there.
I've got a question for you. I've got 2 questions. I've got 3 questions for you.
Sure, far away.
Why is Vicky Guerrero there?
No idea.
Uh, why does Excalibur always say plunder?
Again, no idea.
He
Vicky
says,
Guerrero was in a couple of Chris Jericho's funny skits a couple of weeks back, and then Jim Ross did say later on in the show, "There's no reason to be here. She's just a friend of the family, friend of the show, so she's here."
then why market her as actually attending? Why not just
Which,
completely ignore her?
yeah, exactly. But then that led to me thinking that if she's allowed to be there when she has no reason to be, why can't everyone else be there?
I don't understand why you would let everybody at home know that Vicky Guerrero is there. Like, it's not exactly like saying Scott Hall's there, you know?
What's your third question?
My third question involves the TNT Championship, so I'm going to ignore it.
We'll get to it when we get to that.
I hate everything that Excalibur says.
I can feel that. I like him.
He means a fucking weapon, is what he means. But I guess we're not allowed to say that, just like we have to say Tope Suicida and whatever stupid shit he wants to come up with. Ah, anyway, come on then, get me over
Right,
this.
let's just finish this ladder match bit. My favorite spot of the whole thing is Joey Janela does a running Death Valley driver off of the ring with Cassidy onto the poker chip that's burying Brian Cage.
That was
I
pretty
thought
cool.
that was cool. That's the biggest wow moment of the whole thing. Anyway, turns out Brian Cage is climbing up the ladder. Everyone is trying to drag him down. Orange Cassidy is actually like piggybacking off him, trying to reach the clip himself. He gets brought down. He kind of clears the ring. Him and Luchasaurus go at it for a minute. Cage gets the best of Luchasaurus, including a power bomb through a ladder, and then Cage goes and gets it.
I got to admit, this Cage Luchasaurus 1 minute was like Brock Lesnar Goldberg stuff. It was crazy how athletic they were and like how bruising they were, and it kind of looked like two monsters actually facing off against each other. I think they did that quite well.
Yeah, it's really fun, and that's what I meant when I said the only one that really looks cool coming out of this is Luchasaurus, because he didn't look like a chump, and the bits he was involved in looked really cool.
Yeah. What? Why? If you're debuting a new guy, you throw him under ladders for 20 minutes and forget about him. Fair enough. Whatever. That's what you want to do. If Taz has literally just sided himself with this guy, why does Taz walk him out? He's obviously must be watching his new guy get decimated by ladders for 20 minutes. Where's Taz?
Take
He
all the crap
wasn't
off.
even at ringside. He just went back in. He wasn't doing anything.
He left, and then didn't he come back out for the finish?
Yeah, what did he do for the 20 minutes that Brian Cage was under poker chips?
I don't know. Went
Why
back
have you
and
got Orange Cassidy in the match with more face time, double the amount that Darby Allin has?
let's just say it wasn't the best ladder match of all time.
TNA shit, mate.
But I'm looking forward to seeing what Brian Cage does. It's a big loss for Impact. They're going to be sad, but it's a huge gain for AEW, and I'm excited for Luchasaurus as I am always.
He's got quite the steroid back, is Brian Cage.
Yeah, less said about that, the better, probably.
Apparently, Tony Khan's really into him. He signed him in January and let him work through his injury. He paid him for the last couple of months.
Okay, yeah, he's a cool guy. He's got a cool move set. Hopefully, some cool stuff will happen with him.
Don't know whether you've heard, but they've announced Brian Cage versus John Moxley at Fighter Fest.
Yeah, I saw that. It was in the press conference, the post press conference.
Doesn't that feel way too soon to you?
They announced that the poker chip isn't like Money in the Bank briefcase. It's not you can have a title shot whenever you want it. It's a title shot at the next pay per view. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, you've either got Cage losing as soon as he's coming in, you're taking the championship off the hottest guy in AEW.
But as I said, the pay per view's been moved to July now, so there's 2.5 months build for it. So they can make Brian Cage look like an absolute monster going into it, and then hopefully a loss wouldn't hurt him so bad.
Okay.
But I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Anyway,
So the next match, which is definitely my favorite match of the night,
same.
I think, yeah, for you too, MGF versus Jungle Boy. Before we get into this match, I've said it before, and I just want to say it again, that this really feels like this is the future of not just AEW, but the future of wrestling.
I
It
agree.
feels like this very same match is going to happen in 10 years' time on the biggest card for the top belt, and it's going to be like the biggest deal.
They're 22 and 24 years old right now. Can you imagine what they're going to be like in 10 years? All the
Yeah, that's
tricks
what I'm
that they've
saying.
learned.
In 10 years, these guys are going to be top of the industry, without a doubt. So my top note I got for this is that this match felt like an old school Ring of Honor match. These guys are still quite new, so I don't want to compare them so easily to Brian Danielson and Nigel McGuinness, AJ or Joe, but it felt like the kind of technical masterclass that Ring of Honor used to do.
MJF, I think, really proved to people that he wasn't just all talk on this show. That all of his moves were incredibly fluid. He had an awareness of himself and what he was doing and where as a heel at all times in this match. Jungle Boy was the perfect babyface foil, and they managed to make it not just story, which I thought it would be with MJF. I love MJF. I wasn't sure that he had the same amount of in-ring ability as he did charisma, but he really showed off like fluid holds. Every move meant something. I think that's the thing that's lost the most in current wrestling, what moves actually meaning something. Even an arm drag in this had a sort of venomous quality to it. And Jungle Boy was so good as his antithesis. It was a classic face heel match. I was so refreshed to see it. I don't think I've seen something like that for a very long time. Like the closest I can come to this year is Daniel Bryan versus The Fiend, and that was in no way on this level of class.
Jungle Boy was selling his arm, and MGF was selling his lower back, and it came to a point towards the end of the match that they couldn't do moves anymore.
Yeah, they
Um,
sold the whole way through this thing.
yeah, they couldn't do moves anymore, and then they had to start changing up their arsenal, and they had to start doing different things to the point where they weren't doing wrestling moves anymore. They at one point they were just fighting because they couldn't pick each other up, and then this thing ended with just them doing roll ups and proper mat wrestling to try and get one up on each other. They realized they can't power move, they can't hit their finishers to finish this thing. They're gonna have to trap each other into a pin, and that's how it ended. MGF looked great because, like you said, he looks like he can go now and he can do some really cool stuff. And it saved Jungle Boy a little bit because although he got the loss, he lost by a tiny little bit and he lost being caught up and tangled in this pin. So it looks like they could go again and the next match would be just as exciting to
Yep.
watch.
And they made this hard and competitive throughout. They didn't make one guy look better than the other. I love the little spot where they're slapping each other with their head upside down. They're doing move for move back at each other. I've watched matches with guys that are 15 years older than them, who forget which leg they're selling. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
these guys were consummate professionals throughout, and they kind of like showed up some of the 15-year veterans tonight, I think.
Yeah, man, it was great. It just feels like if this, I don't want to say feud, but this rivalry, if you like, is given time to blossom, this could be the most iconic, legendary rivalry for AEW. This could be like their staple rivalry.
I think they just need to keep plying away at exactly what they're doing and not change anything. Maybe like out in their personal lives, not let it go to their head, because like we've seen a lot of young guys who have sort of skyrocketed and then fallen apart because they're just not able to keep up with the lifestyle. You know,
Touch wood, that doesn't
I
happen
really hope
because
it
it
doesn't
could.
happen to either.
I think this is my favorite match during the Corona era.
My favorite match during the Corona era was Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank. In my opinion, this blew that away. So I would agree with you.
But we both said that that match needed an audience, and I know it's not much of an audience, but it's a little bit of atmosphere having those 20 people around ringside. So that probably helped.
WWE are now doing socially distanced performance center crowds, which is the first time that they've consciously, quite obviously, taken something from AEW and used it for themselves.
And it's only it's gonna help their matches. It's just gonna look better. It's just gonna make matches feel more important.
I don't know about you, but Double or Nothing tonight, the pacing of the show felt weird. We went from MJF Jungle Boy straight into Cody Rhodes versus Lance Archer. And I
So
don't know,
I thought this was way earlier on the card than it was gonna be.
I can't help but suspect that they thought MJF Jungle Boy was going to be a lot worse than it was. Like
Yeah,
usually to pace out a show properly, you have a couple of gimmick matches and then like a big main event, or you have like a 5-10 minute thing and go into another semi main event. It kind of felt like they assumed MJF Jungle Boy would be a decent match, which nobody would thought blew anything out of the water, so that they could then go on to Cody and Lance.
yeah, but those two definitely overshadowed Cody and Lance Archer.
I agree. This match actually, I've got mixed feelings about this match because it achieved the job that I think that it needed to do at the sake of the match quality itself.
I liked the match, but I think it wasn't what the tournament final should have been. I think if this was just an end of a feud style match, it would have been fine. There was a lot of brawling, there was a lot of story stuff. But this was meant to be the final of a tournament. The winner becomes the first ever championship of a new championship. And I feel like that should have had more of a MJF Jungle Boy style match that was just a great match rather than this car crash shenanigans clusterfuck than what this was.
Well, it's shenanigans, Mike Tyson yawning and just playing up to the camera whenever he felt like it.
Yeah, I got that as well. That they kept showing Mike Tyson, and he was doing nothing but sat in a chair, and then one shot he's yawning.
But what? How much money? This was part of a more general point, but just to talk Mike Tyson for a second. How much money did they spend on getting Mike Tyson there for him to do sweet fuck all and not just sit there quietly, but also basically gurn? You know, like he was quite obviously not taking anything seriously. That's even before he fucking yawned. Like this is just such a bad look. We talked about Mike Tyson earlier and how much more publicity he would actually even get for them, you know, and how this wasn't, in my opinion, necessary or a very good idea. But
It
it turned
wasn't necessary at all because when it came to the payoff, it wasn't even good what Mike Tyson was there to do.
you can't defend this stuff as anything different than WWE booking to me. That you have
No,
to admit.
this was awful. I'm with you. I hated the way that this ended, and I hated that this was the TNT tournament final. It fully disgraced like everything they tried to make the championship belt to be. At the end of the match, Arn Anderson is kicked out of the match, and then for no reason, Jake the Snake's also kicked out of the match, even though he was not physical at all. But he gets ejected as well. And then he comes back holding what we assume is a snake, and Mike Tyson gets up onto the stage and gets in his way. You're not going to come in. And this causes the distraction for Cody to get the win. So Mike Tyson didn't touch anyone, he didn't knock anyone out. What Mike Tyson did, a referee could have done. Anyone else on the roster could have done it.
What Mike Tyson did wasn't just anything else that a referee could have done. He made the product look detriment. He was detrimental to the product. He made it look bad. If you're
Yeah,
having, like, I don't believe that any public media is really focusing on the fact that Mike Tyson is introducing a wrestling championship match at this point in time. But if they were, they saw Mike Tyson look very bored, not doing anything, and not taking it seriously. And this
yeah,
is
he
what
didn't
they
add
paid him
to
for.
this match at all.
He
He
took
didn't add
away
to
from
this
it.
match, very much so.
What were your opinions overall on the match, taking away Mike Tyson and the stupid bots with Jake and Arn?
I it wasn't great. It was okay. I didn't hate the match. I think I went into the match with a negative idea because I wanted it to be better because it was this tournament final.
If you're an AEW apologist, I think I'm a Cody Rhodes apologist because I thought that he really worked his ass off on this match to try and get Lance over as a monster before he eventually got beat. Like Cody was jumping around that ring for like 15 minutes.
Not just the ring, but around ringside as well. Two spots. There's one spot where they're basically on the front row of seats, and he gets lobbed all the way across the seating area. This There's a wide area between the ring and the seats, across the barricade and back into the ringside area. It's a good like 10 feet at least, even further. I think 15 feet. He gets lobbed across, and then later in the match, Archer has him in a gorilla press slam, and then throws him out of the ring.
Yeah, he really got ragdolled throughout this whole thing. I don't understand. I've seen feedback on this match saying that Cody Rhodes is the new Jeff Jarrett. I mean, come on, man. First of all, we've already talked about this, but Cody Rhodes really needed this win. And he hasn't exactly been controlling in the way that he's been booked. But just how much effort he put into getting Lance Archer over before finally making somewhat of a comeback and winning the championship. You can't understate that.
No, I love Cody, and I think he makes everyone he wrestles with looks good. Whether he wins or loses, he makes everyone look good. I'm not down on that at all. I think the match was okay. I just would have preferred it to have been the end of a feud, its own separate thing. I don't think it needed the tournament and the belt as well.
Or any of the distractions. Where do you see Lance Archer going now?
He's going to be stuck in the mid card for a while.
You know,
I don't think he'll do anything fantastic.
Cody really did put him over hard, though.
Yeah, I yeah, I don't know. Maybe now that the inner circle elite story is kind of, I don't know if it's come to an end, but at least it's come to some sort of climax. Maybe he'll go up against one of the guys from the elite. Maybe Kenny. Oh, but Kenny's tag team champion. I don't know. No idea. I haven't thought about it really.
All I think is that somebody needs to sit down Jake Roberts and say, you need to start building up Lance Archer instead of building yourself up.
He needs to calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
or he needs to be paired with someone else because Lance Archer can become. I mean, even in New Japan, he was a big deal in New Japan, so he could be a massive player for AEW if he
But
stops being overshadowed.
this is this typical point that wouldn't, as much as WWE might be terrible sometimes, this wouldn't happen in Vince McMahon's company. You wouldn't have Jake Roberts overshadowing a younger talent. You wouldn't have Brian Cage's big moment being stopped by Joey Janela shouting "motherfucker" to get himself over. You wouldn't have these little. You wouldn't have Darby Allin doing that stupid thing. There's all of these things that could be stopped, but there doesn't seem to be any sort of boss to say that this isn't a great idea. So people are getting their own stuff over, which is in their own egotism, which is actually either damaging them or damaging the product.
Yeah,
I think once they get over that, once they actually Cody Rhodes, because I know it's supposed to be like a safe haven for wrestling fans where they're not told what they need to and have to do, and they're not told, but you have to have some semblance of rules because otherwise it's just a madhouse. That's exactly what WCW post Russo became, a madhouse where everybody was allowed to do whatever they wanted.
I think that's the trade-off. WWE is a dictatorship. You got one guy controlling everything, so it's always going to be his vision, which sometimes is great. It means we streamline some things and we can do great debuts because it's one vision that works and there's
Yeah.
no one else to muddle the waters. But majority of the time, it just becomes bland and boring. And in AEW, there's a lot of mistakes. And even as a big AEW fan, even in this one show, there was a lot of things that didn't work that brought the quality of the show down. But I think the trade off is that we've got such a massive bag of different ingredients, different styles, different characters, and everyone kind of gets at least one shot to do their own thing. It creates for more interesting things, whether you love it or hate it.
Conceivably, how long does that last long term? If you've got a business model in which everybody's allowed to do whatever they want and everybody gets to try it once or twice before finally being told, no, that's not working, how many failed ideas do you have for the good ones? If you've got a 50-50% of good ideas and bad ideas permanently going forward, you won't be building your audience.
There's some people that have definitely have been allowed to do their own thing and then they've been told it's not working, let's do it this way. Kip Sabian, for example, he's definitely on a script now. There's others I can think of as well. But then there's people like John Moxley that have obviously been given free reign to do what they want and it's working. I guess the argument to that is probably Sean Spears. Whether I don't know whether all these things are his ideas or they're all creatives' ideas, but he's had 5 or 6 gimmick changes now, and they've all been a bust.
I think Spears is being vinced now. They've had enough of him, I think.
But just for the sake of your argument, I do think after so many goes of trying to invent or reinvent yourself, there does need to be someone backstage to tell you what to do. The problem is the people backstage that are telling them what to do is the elite. They have the mindset as all the boys, you know. So they have the same ideas, is what I'm trying to say.
You're gonna have a great time, but you're not necessarily gonna make the same amount of money, man.
But is that that's possibly the point? They've always said they don't want to beat WWE. They don't even want to compete with them. They just want to be different, and they want a safe haven for wrestlers to be able to do what they want to do.
But what happens when it's not Cody in control anymore? What happens when there's a coup and you have a Hogan, a Nash, a Scott Hall? What happens when you have a Shawn Michaels, a Triple H, and they go into business for themselves? I go back to the Joey Janela thing. It was funny when he shouted, "You motherfucker." But what he did there was off screen remind everybody that Joey Janela exists. And it took away from the fact that Cage had just killed him. It didn't show Cage. The spot there was to show how powerful Cage was. But all anybody was doing was laughing at how Janela was swearing. If you've got tiny little bits like that throughout the whole show, then the wrestlers start ruining it for each other. Before you know it, you've got politics. Before you know that, the whole creative content and outpouring is a mess.
Well, I think Janela will be called out on it because this has happened before with Janela. He got a massive push at the beginning of AEW. I think it'll be more the swearing than him going into business for himself that he'll be punished for. because Tony Khan's already come out apologizing for the swearing.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, after Joey Janela had a push last year, for about 6 months, he was only on Dark. He was barely used. And in this match, obviously, it's a Spot Fest ladder match, but he wasn't even meant to be in it. He was replacing Ray Phoenix, who got injured. So he was a last minute replacement. He wasn't their go to guy. I don't know if I can defend what you're saying about everyone, but specifically about Joey Janela, I think he's already in the bad books.
It's kind of just a generalized point. It's not something that really annoyed me. I just sort of noticed it, found it funny, and then realized, hey, that's not really doing anybody any favors. You know, I think you know me by now. Like, there's a massive divide on Twitter and social media at this point of WWE versus AEW. Like, it's the conservatives versus the Labour Party or the Republicans versus the Democrats. I'm neither, man. I grew up watching WWE. I recognize that right now it's pretty awful. And I want AEW to do well, despite the fact that I don't really enjoy all of its stuff. I'm kind of on the fence, and I'm trying to look at this stuff objectively. I want AEW to not only succeed but be on equal level with WWE. I don't want to criticize them out of turn if they're just doing something that I don't particularly like, which is why I went into the casino match with an open mind. Because I knew that I don't like that style of wrestling, but I wanted to see whether I did it successfully. And the thing that frustrates me with AEW is not because I don't like the product because it's not my personal taste. It's because I see these glaring things, which I know that they could improve and bring more people to the product.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things they can improve. Even as a hardcore fan of theirs, I can see that there's a lot of mistakes happening. That ladder match was a shambles.
Still annoying me.
What did you think of the championship belt, the TNT championship belt?
I saw a lot of flack for this. I don't think that there's an issue with it. I heard that they're going to work on it a little bit more, put some gold plates on it and stuff.
Yeah, Jim Ross even said on the show that the belt's not finished. They couldn't get it finished in time. It's going to get gold plating and then something about the lettering.
It quite clearly shows me that they've come up with the TNT on the fly like a month ago. But in terms of the actual aesthetic, if they add some gold to it, make it a little bit less basic, I'm sure it'd be fine. And it
Don't you
like
think it looks a bit like the 24 belt?
a little bit at the moment. I think they do need to put some bells and whistles on it, but at the same time, it reminded me more, and maybe that's why Mike Tyson's name came up. Honestly, it reminded me more of a boxing belt. It had the
Yeah,
same sort of simple design with the red leather and the white plate. Like it was very simple, very unassuming, and represented more of like a real sporting belt than the £10 of gold. You know.
I don't know. They've been booking this tournament for a month and a half. I don't know why the pandemic means that they can't get a belt made in a month and a half. That seems a bit weird.
Really bad situation they put themselves in with getting Mike Tyson in so many different ways. Because again, well, I know that they didn't know Mike Tyson would yawn on camera going in because that's now the media picture, right? But they knew that the media picture going in would be Mike Tyson holding the belt. If like CBS or whatever, anybody's going to pick it up, the picture is going to be Mike Tyson holding the belt. And yeah, they made like the worst belt that they possibly could within the time frame that they had.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking on the show, if the belt's not finished and it looks quite crap right now, it might look better when it's done, but why even have a belt? I mean, I know it's the tournament final and everything, but I feel like it would have been better them saying, "Oh, the belt's not finished because of Corona," rather than saying, "Here's a half-finished belt because of Corona." Because now I'm just looking at like this belt shit. Why would anyone want to win that? Cody
Really?
doesn't look like he wants to wear that.
Yeah, and again, if you can play an angle into that, man, you know, like Cody could win the thing, but he doesn't have it yet, and then they have the grand unveiling on a Dynamite, and then Lance Archer turns up and like ruins it or whatever. You could play into that gimmick easily.
I even saw something on Reddit. Someone said they should have made a storyline out of it and said that Chris Jericho lost the TNT Championship in a limo, and that's why you can't. That's why there's no belt on the pay-per-view. I just think even with some gold plating, that belt is very bland and boring.
I
To
think
me, it doesn't look good.
I think I can see what they were going for in concept, which is the real sports boxing title. In reality, you're very much nail on the head with R-Truth's 48, 7, 12, 11.
It looks like the 24 belt, doesn't it? But just red instead of green.
Yeah,
It's just got bland. I mean, the TNT is a shit name, and now it looks like a shit belt. It's just got the
really,
words.
really does look like it's made out of tin as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that might be the gold thing. That might fix it, but even still. Oh well. Okay, so after this, we had a backstage interview with a doctor that said Britt Baker injured a knee and she'll be out for, what do you say, something like 6 weeks, I think.
I heard 6 months.
Oh, was it 6 months? Sorry, 6 months.
It is what it is. Did you see this spot on the Go Home show?
Yeah, she completely fucked up her knee when Nyla Rose got dropped on her.
Pretty horrible. That Go Home show was rife with injuries.
Yeah, there was 3 major injuries.
Who was the third? You had Phoenix, Britt Baker.
Matt Jackson, he fucked up his lower back.
Oh, I heard he worked the main event with a broken rib.
Yeah, that was it. It was his rib he fucked up. He
Yeah.
jumped off the barricade, and who was it? I think it was one of the Proud and Powerful boys didn't catch him, bruised his rib or something. That's why he was all taped up in the main event.
Yeah, sucks for Britt Baker, man, and it kind of messes up their plans yet again, doesn't it?
It does, because she was the biggest thing in the women's division. We'll talk about it in a minute, but who won the championship belt? You can definitely see what their plans were here.
I think that was basically one of the only reasons for it.
Yeah, exactly. Penelope, can't say
Penelope.
it. That's the one. She was brought in to be against Chris Statlander instead. What did you think of this match?
I thought that these two could go. I thought that for an impromptu match, it was pretty good. Obviously, it was quite short. For what it was, I quite enjoyed it. I was quite immersed in it while it was going on. And these two both surprised me favorably. I thought they were both quite good.
Okay, so maybe I'm looking at this wrong then, because maybe from someone that hasn't been watching AW for so long, this was a good showcase for both of them. My thinking was Chris Statlander was obviously going to lose this match against Britt Baker. That would have been the original plan, I assume. I thought this match went too long, and I thought they should have used this as an excuse to make Statlander look great, look like a dominant competitor. Because Ford has never been pushed that much. She's a glorified manager. I thought Statlander should have won this match in like 2 minutes and
It's
just scorched Ford.
it's really interesting that you say that because my notes here are that it was short, fast-paced fun. So I thought it was quite short. I've got that Statlander looks good and is likable, and they need a popular baby face, and I thought this was a good showing for her. I also remember Jim Ross saying several times on commentary that Penelope Ford would probably do better with her career if Kip Sabian stopped telling her where to turn up and where to go and stuff. So all of the things that you didn't like about it, as a casual viewer of AEW, I thought they put over very well.
Yeah, I think I'm just maybe viewing this from the wrong angle. Penelope Ford has never been a huge in-ring competitor. She's only had a very few matches. But maybe now with such a smaller, definitely with Britt Baker out the picture, of a smaller women's division, maybe they needed to give her a good showing. So actually, thinking how you saw the match, maybe it was actually quite good, giving them both a spotlight.
Well, I know that you're a big fan of Statlander. I don't see as much in her as you do. I thought she had a good showing as a normal babyface. I thought that they might easily have messed this up by Penelope Ford turning up in the ladder match. If she had taken any bump apart from landing on Kip Sabian and looking fine, then they really would have done a disservice to Statlander here. But because she just sort of fell off and onto him and looked absolutely fine from it, I don't think it made any difference.
Yeah. And then we go on to Sean Spears versus Dustin Rhodes. Spears does this whole promo where he thinks he's going to win. All night we've been told Dustin's not even in the building. So Spears demands that the referee starts a count out and he gets the easiest win of his career. Brandy comes out causing a distraction and Dusty sneaks in, attacks from behind to start this match. You liked?
I just liked the fact that Sean Spears is in his proper place in AEW and everything's right with the world. Sean Spears to me is not above the level of getting his ass slapped on live television.
So he gets stripped out of his suit by Dustin Rhodes, and on his boxers he has a tiny little Tully Blanchard on his crotch. And in his boxers, Dustin then pulls them down and slaps his ass.
Hard to explain this to a normal human being.
it was hard for me to take in. Um, Dustin is at this legendary status at the moment. I thought anyway, where he was having these 40-minute matches with Cody where they're both bloodied up and it's the hardest match you've ever seen. And then he's having these awesome tag matches, and then he's having these matches on Dark with rookies, making them look good. And then now he's in a joke match.
I thought that from his most recent appearances getting killed by Lance Archer, I just assumed that Dustin was slightly injured and he was working slightly injured. I thought that was the reason that Archer took him out and he had this sort of stupid gimmick match with Sean Spears.
If Dusty's injured, why not play through with the story then that Sean Spears gets the 10 count and he wins the easiest match he's ever had? And then on the next Dynamite, Dusty comes out and said, I wasn't even there. You booked the match. Management didn't book that match. It wasn't a real match. Let's have a real thing. And if Dusty's injured, we book a match in a month's time when he's not injured and we build this thing up. And then actually maybe Sean Spears looks somewhat interesting out
Well,
of
I
this.
mean, that I hate Spears. I don't hate him as a person, obviously, but his character, what he represents, and like how they've booked him and how they've booked him despite him not coming over to anyone well. I didn't really understand this as much as I don't like the characters that he's presented and how many chances he's been given. They seem to have no idea how to just ease someone out. Like just the same way that they have no idea how to. They seem tone deaf when somebody isn't getting over. When they finally realize it, they embarrass the guy like to the level of a Vince McMahon embarrassment.
Yeah, this was a WWE burial. It felt like that.
Completely and utterly. And you got to feel a little bit for Sean Spears, who's come in, nothing's worked, but he's finally gotten out the grips of Vince McMahon, where he has to kiss somebody's ass or something. And here he is 6 months later. I mean, the saddest thing for me was that 6 months ago, he actually had real life Tully Blanchard, like being his manager, and now Tully Blanchard's gone to be on his dick. Like that's quite a significant fall over the past 6 months, but I still don't get it. They had him calling out Cody in some like really professional promo where he's sitting in the back and he's still doing his chairman thing. I don't know. Now he's wearing sock garters. I don't.
He's had a fall from grace in the last year, hasn't he?
It's
I'm
not just
sorry.
a fall from grace. It's like he wasn't getting over and he wasn't getting over, and they tried. And like a month ago, he was still mid card, and now he's just fallen off a cliff. And
They've made him a joke. He's a joke character now.
but it was kind of like bitterly humiliating. Like, isn't this the company where everybody gets treated nicely and nobody gets treated like shit?
Well, maybe he's going to get his win back down the road. I don't know.
We might have a revelation in the Spears corner next week. He might have turned babyface for me.
We'll see. We'll see. So immediately after this, we get a tribute to Hana Kimura. Unlike the Shad Gaspar one, this one makes a little bit more sense because a lot of the elite guys have quite a close connection to a lot of the Japanese wrestlers, and especially New Japan. And she was in the first ever women's match for New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom.
Don't like anything Excalibur does, but I thought he handled this really professionally and probably a lot better than Jim Ross would have done in the same position.
Then we roll into the Women's World Championship match. Nyla Rose defends against Hikaru Shida. Personally, I thought this was maybe one of the best women's hardcore matches I've ever seen in my life. I thought it was a fantastic match, and we both said on the predictions that there's not much of a story to this. It was a bit rushed, and it was. But they did have one story with the kendo stick. Nyla Rose stole it. They wove that into the match, I thought, perfectly. They made it feel like it was the one weapon that could decide this match. They kept coming back to it, and they kept fighting for control for this kendo stick. And then the payoff, the kendo stick actually won the match.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. They managed to plan a story based upon a simple object throughout the entire match in order for there to be a story. And I think they did that expertly. And they also really played into the David versus Goliath vibe very well. This surprised me quite a bit, actually, because I wasn't expecting much from it.
Yeah, it was fantastic because they didn't only have a classic brawling style match where everyone's head just gets bounced off a wall and they brawl. They used all of the props, all of the casino props around ringside. At one point, they go through a poker table. They get dropped off the poker chips. I can't find my notes, but there's more stuff that happens.
There's some pretty brutal spots in this.
Maybe the best I've ever seen a women's match. They do a lot of hardcore matches in Japan, but I've not watched much of women's wrestling in Japan.
I still don't feel like we really know anything at all about Shida. Kind of feels like definitely what you were saying earlier, that she's been thrown into contendership and now thrown as champion just to build up a baby face. That I think that they're beginning to do women heels really well. Obviously, Britt Baker. Nyla Rose looks like a monster. Well, she did up until this. I loved that she screamed at the ref to hold the belt up while she was being announced. Little things like
Yeah.
that I love. I don't agree with this decision personally. I get why they're doing it. I understand that they need to build up a babyface champion. But I did feel that despite the fact that this match went long, and obviously Shida had to work towards with weapons to beat Nyla, there was a little bit of shine missing from Nyla at the end of this, considering that she hasn't had the belt for long for herself.
I was surprised with the result. I definitely thought Nyla was going to win. But saying that, I'm not against the decision. Shida has been used an awful lot. She's not really had a story, I think, at all in AEW. But she's been used a lot of just getting wins after wins after wins, and she was silently just became the top contender in the whole ranking system that they have. Not much happened with that, but she stayed at the top for months now. And they've said on TV she is the number one contender, and she has been for months. But there was just no story to get you invested in her. And I feel like we probably could have had a better championship match here if there was a bigger, drawn out story. But the women's division has always been struggling. And I feel like with Shida now as a credible champion, they could do something more exciting going forward. I feel like Nyla Rose is good and she does look dominant, but every story she's been involved in has been quite lackluster.
Again, I'm fine with it as long as they then don't change their mind again and take the belt off again. All I want from the women's division in AEW right now is to have a long-term champion. I don't care who it is, as long as they build them up and keep them champion for a couple of months, because they really need to stop hopscotching the belt.
I definitely think Shida could be that person. I think she could definitely be a credible champion for a while.
She's a lot more credible to me than Rio was.
Yeah. Anyway, this was my favorite women's match I think ever in AEW history. It was definitely one of my favorite women's hardcore matches I've ever seen. I had a lot of fun with this.
Well, I know that you didn't enjoy the earlier one, but I thought that this was a great showing for the women tonight and a big step forward from what I've seen over the past couple of months.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. And then we go on to Moxley versus Brody Lee. And when they announced this, I got legitimately raged that this wasn't main event. But then when we see what the main event was, I understand why that had to go on last.
Oh, man, it's really interesting to hear your opinions about this show because you're acting like I usually would, and I'm acting like you usually would. I never expected this to be main.
Really, well, I don't know if I expected it. I just always feel like the top belt should be main. But there was definitely more star power in the main event, and also the Stampede. I didn't realize the Stampede was going to be one of these B movie type deals.
Well, I remember us talking about it, and you're like, "Nah, they won't be in the stadium."
Yeah, I was completely shocked. I don't know. I thought it was going to be like a proper match, but it was one of those B movie things. So I understand now, after I watched it, why this was co-main, because you couldn't really do the B movie thing and then come back into the arena to have the championship match.
Also, would have put Mox and Brody Lee in a bad spot as well.
Yeah, because they probably wouldn't have been able to follow that up too well. I don't have many notes on this match, only just that Brody Lee looked pretty cool coming out of this.
I loved the fact that they had the security guards separating them. Made him feel really big time. Also really enjoyed Brody Lee breaking the fourth wall, stared directly into the camera. A proper cult leader thing to do.
I liked his ring gear as well. It looks much better than what he's been in for the last couple of weeks.
Brody Lee really impressed me in this match, and I don't even think he should wear ring gear. I think when he finally took that vest off, he looked far more foreboding and scary than when he actually wears a shirt. I guess when he wears a vest, you don't really see how big the fucking guy is.
It's just the purple shiny shit he's been wearing for the last couple of weeks was pretty crap.
Yeah.
But this made him look like a legitimate contender.
Couple of notes here. I thought that it was the first double drop kick I've ever liked.
It looked like John Moxley got kicked in the nuts in that double drop kick.
Probably because it actually looked realistic. I hate the double drop kick thing. I always have. And this was the whole vibe of the match, really. It had that sort of very rare, instantaneous atmosphere to it that you very rarely get in wrestling, compounded by realistic violence. Like the match got more and more violent as it went along.
Yeah, it felt like a real fight rather than a wrestling match.
Yeah, they obviously did the Taz spot where they go through the stage.
Yeah, so this is how the match ended. We're up onto the stage, and they're brawling for a bit, and then Moxley hits his double arm DDT, and they both go through the stage. I've actually got in my nuts. Oh Jesus, fuck me! That was crazy. I just wasn't expecting anything like that. And then medics and refs come running in to surround the hole. Eventually, Moxley crawls out. He looks like a fucking badass, and then Brody crawls out. His face is covered in blood. And then after this, Moxley can't pin Brody. He gets a 1 count, then he gets a 2 count. And after every pin, Moxley just tries to beat the shit out of him. Really, he's just throwing punches, elbows, knees. There's no wrestling anymore. This is now just a scrap. He can't get the pin, so he locks in a sleeper hold and then just puts Brody to sleep.
It was
So
really
Brody,
really impressive how vicious Moxley kept it throughout the entire match.
yeah. And after that ending, they both look like tough bastards. Brody looks strong in defeat because he got put to sleep.
I'm actually interested in Brody Lee. Somehow, credit to whoever's putting this stuff together. Within 3 weeks, they've made me rant about it and not understand why it exists, to be fully immersed in the match and looking forward to seeing how both guys come out of it. Also, I don't know whether you noticed, I'm not sure how much of a fan of Taz you are. Falling through the stage is a Taz thing. Taz did that with Bigelow, and he did it with someone else, and it was kind of like the Taz spot. And also that vicious sleeper hold at the end that he put on. And again, like, when was the last time you saw a sleeper hold look that good?
Or a sleeper hold finish a match.
Yeah, and actually made it look realistic as well. But the putting of the leg over and finishing the match with it, that's 2 Taz references too many. I like the subtleties of slowly building the vibe, because in 2 months' time you've got Mox versus Brian Cage, and I think this was definitely done intentionally for Mox to almost come off a little bit Tazish, do some Taz stuff, finish with a Taz move, do a Taz spot, so that they've now got the fundamentals, basics. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but it just came off like that to me, that they've got Moxley doing Taz stuff, and Taz says, "Oh, you're doing Taz stuff. This is my new Taz." And Mox is like, "Well, I'm already doing it," you know?
Maybe it will be used in the story.
Yeah.
Like you said, they've set it up, so it's definitely something they could do. I didn't realize all of that stuff, so it wasn't blatantly obvious. But if they're going to weave it into the story, Brian Cage later on, that'd be really cool.
Always a fan of a sleeper hold actually looking like a lethal move, though.
Yeah, I mean, this match was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
It was hard hitting, a ton of brawling. I thought you'd get a bit annoyed by now because we've had a lot of brawling matches.
It's the thing again, what I mentioned earlier, the pacing. Like, I wouldn't have put Cody and Lance straight after MJF and Jungle Boy. If they wanted to have no disqualification championship match and women's championship match, I would have just swapped the 2 women's matches over. Put the Statlander just before Mox, just as like a little breather, little short, quick, fun thing.
I feel like because they're trying to be a real sports league, they're not trying to have the bathroom break kind of theory. They want all their championship matches headlining the card. So I don't know if they would ever have a championship match. Well, I mean, they did it with the TNT one, I suppose.
They must sort of believe in the piss break theory, because otherwise that Sean Spears thing would have made no sense to anyone.
I guess so, but remember they do come from a New Japan train of booking, where the matches just get better and better as they go. In Japan, they don't have a piss break. All the matches just get better and better and better. I don't know if that's because the Japanese audience can sit through 3 hours of wrestling and just enjoy it, and they don't need to have a mind break, whereas the American audience need a piss break.
That's fine, but I don't think it's wise to do gimmick.
True. It was Moxley's second defense of the title, I think.
I have no idea. He doesn't seem to defend it much. I mean, for the last month, he hasn't even had it. I kind of forget that Mox is champion.
Yeah, I think it was only his second defense, but it makes him look like a credible champion in such an awesome, hard hitting fight. And then after this, we get an advert for AEW's action figures coming in September, I think it said.
This was cool, man. Like, this is a big step forward, right?
Yeah, it's a big deal, I suppose, to have your own action figure.
Unless they're selling them on the internet on some wrestling action figure site. But if they're selling them in Tesco, then this is big.
Yeah, it's cool. And then we're into our main event, the Stadium Stampede match, the Elite versus the Inner Circle. Like I said a minute ago, I thought this was going to be a match. I didn't realize this was going to be one of these B movie things that seem to be happening a lot during the quarantine. Which I'm hoping it stays a quarantine thing because I'm actually a little bit down on this match, and it's not because the match was
Whoa.
good. Yeah, I know, I know. Everyone loved it, and I did like it, but we've just seen so many of these now. I'm a little bit sick of them.
Very fearful of the rumor that I've heard that Tony Khan wants to make this a yearly thing.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Once a year, but we've had between WWE, AEW, and Impact, we've had like 7 of these in like a month.
No. But I
And
get the point you're making about movies. But do you want to see the Stadium Stampede once a year? I don't.
oh right,
I don't really want
if
to ever see this again.
if they freshen it up, and I mean by like it's not in a stadium, it's in a different venue, then sure. But yeah, it could become quite stale if they do it. Anyway, the reason I did like this is because, unlike Money in the Bank, my biggest argument was they were in an office space and they didn't use that space well. They didn't do anything in there that they couldn't have done in any other place. Whereas this, they used all of the arena. They used tons of different American football isms, and that's why I wanted to ask you because I'm a big fan of the NFL. I follow a team. I watch a lot of American football. But as a non-American that doesn't watch a lot of American sports, did you understand a lot of the things they did in this match?
I got the gist of it. I know that you have to carry the ball over the line, and I found it very funny when I think it was Hangman Page carried Chris Jericho over the line. Then there was another bit where one of the Jacksons did suplexes of 100 yards. I got like the majority. It was simple enough to follow, even if I didn't actually understand that that was a thing. Like the replay box.
Yeah,
Not sure whether that's a real life thing or not, but because
yeah, it is.
it's just a crazy carny American football wrestling inspired thing. You just kind of take it as it is. Like you don't they didn't do anything too in depth where I didn't understand a rule or
Okay, that's good. I thought maybe it was too Americanized for an international audience to get some of the in jokes that they made.
I don't know whether you noticed. I've highly enjoyed the fact that the Inner Circle had hired a coach who was shouting instructions at them and writing notes. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was great.
I completely missed that.
Yeah, he was at the back of the ring, like right at the back of the arena at the ring, and he was like kept looking over, writing down, and then like shouting at Jericho or shouting at Sammy. It was a really I love the little details like that they
That is fantastic.
AW put in.
My biggest thing about this is I said it was one of these B movie matches, but it kind of wasn't. It was in the middle because we had commentary, which I think was the biggest saving grace. Instead of a ton of crappy music, we had commentary.
This was for me the best B movie thing that I've seen produced. It was the most professional. It was the most entertaining. By the time they got their entrances done with the crazy pyro and fucking Hangman Page coming in on a horse, everybody looked badass. It was already far superior in entertainment to any of WWE's B movie stuff.
So the match starts off with a whistle instead of a bell. Again, another American football thing. And Hangman Page doesn't immediately enter with the Elite. So again, we're still playing on this storyline that he doesn't trust them, which is great. We've got story woven into this thing. And then eventually he does emerge riding a horse. Now, we've both been against AEW using animals before, but I think in this situation it was fine because it was a huge open field with not a lot of people.
I was really scared of Hangman Page going through the pyro with the horse. I really wasn't looking forward to seeing that if that was happening, but luckily It was okay. Like this, there's no problem with using an animal in a piece of entertainment where there's nobody around. I hope that this doesn't give them the idea to keep having Paige use the horse when there is
Yeah,
a
I think
crowd.
I think it's gonna keep happening. It's gonna be his like special, and it's like Triple H's motorbike.
I don't like that. If it's a backstage entrance or a backstage spot, just not in front of fucking 20,000 people, then it's fine. They can do it. If he's putting it down the ramp, then I'm absolutely against it, and it shouldn't be happening at this day and age.
So we played on the whole thing with Sammy Guevara getting run over by a golf court. Hangman Page tries to run him over with his horse. Somehow, Sammy managed to outrun the horse across pretty much half of the field into one of the backstage areas.
I've seen for the first time what you mean about calling back spots, and it is actually quite entertaining.
Yeah, because later on we have the golf cart thing again, and quite cleverly, they did a shot for shot remake of how they did it 3 weeks ago or so.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Kenny and Matt were in the same places. I thought that was great.
It was the same place, same camera shot, same angle, same exact thing, but this time Sammy Guevara escapes with his life.
Poor Sammy
Um,
Guevara in this match, man. Chased by a horse. He got chased by Nick Jackson, suplex 100 meters. He got hit by sprinklers.
well, going back to the horse bit, I thought this was quite unrealistic that he could outrun a horse, but I heard on a podcast that if a horse had run full gallop like that back onto the concrete off the grass, that horse would have gone like ass over tits. So the horse had to slow down, and that's how Sammy Guevara could escape, which is a cool little detail.
Thanks to that guy for telling me that. And
The commentary team is always so ready to explain things, but they didn't explain that, which seemed quite important.
yeah, well, if you've added yet another layer to this very detailed masterwork, I got to tell you,
So,
man, this would be a match that I would be dying to watch and dying to get the tape of if I was a kid.
yeah,
It's everything that the Money in the Bank promised to be and wasn't.
it definitely was. It's the only one of these style matches that I want to watch again.
Same.
The only thing that seemed a little silly is that there was a wrestling ring right in the middle of the football field, which visually looked really cool. As the chaos unfolded, everyone seemed to be magnetically pulled to the wrestling ring. It's like the wrestlers are attracted to a wrestling ring. And they all start doing spots inside the ring. So they got this whole massive venue, which eventually we do use. We see lots of different things. But for like a minute there, I was worried we were just having a wrestling match in the middle of the field.
Well, they did do that for 2-3 minutes. They tried to retain it back into a normal tag team match, and I thought, right, that's it. We're just gonna have a tag team match on a field.
Yeah, and I was feeling Money in the Bank vibes at that point. It's like we're in this huge area and we're just going to be in a ring.
But I think luckily they did that on purpose. I think they actually extended that time that they were in the ring to make it feel like we weren't getting out of it, so that when we did get out of it, we got excited again.
After they're all in the ring, they all kind of split up into three directions and we follow three different areas of action. I believe the first kind of area we see is Matt Hardy fighting Santana Ortiz, and they get up to like a balcony where there is a swimming pool. Matt Hardy gets thrown into the swimming pool. Ortiz is a bit hesitant to get in because he can't swim, which is a funny little extra. And then as they get in, then they start trying to drown Matt Hardy. But every time he goes into the water and comes out, he's a different version of Matt Hardy.
Right. Yeah. First of all, there's the obvious idea that you've just paid tribute to a man that's drowned. Like,
I didn't get that connection, but yeah, I can completely see that now. I didn't see that at the time.
I just thought it was a little bit tasteless, and obviously they probably filmed this way before that happened, but they could have edited it around it. And I just thought, like, WrestleMania got slack for Orton choking out Edge with a piece of gym equipment. Obviously, Chris Benoit committed suicide doing that. I just thought that, come on, man, in the same week, like, somebody must have thought, hey, maybe we shouldn't scream over commentary, they're drowning him, to a wrestler at a wrestler.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection at all because obviously the whole point of it was meant to be that it was like the Lake of Reincarnation shit that Matt Hardy's done before.
Well, I've read that this is another one of his gimmicks or whatever, but I mean, it's completely lost on me. If it's completely lost on me, then I'm sure it's completely lost on quite a few people. It just
Yeah,
feels like for no reason they had a spot where a wrestler drowned another wrestler and then shouted that they were drowning them.
Yeah, it was meant to be. Back in Impact when they had the final deletion with Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy,
Mhm.
and he's got like the lake on the back of his compound, and it's his lake of reincarnation. He goes into and he becomes a new man. So I think that's the whole idea. Every time he goes down, he becomes the next version of Hardy, and we go through all the different gimmicks. Without the drownings, I didn't get that. Without the drowning stuff, and that is horrible taste. But even without that, I thought that this has gone on too far now. Even I'm sick of this Matt Hardy shit.
I'm really interested that
Too much.
you're actually saying this. I thought this would be a controversial point between us. I've enjoyed things that Matt Hardy has been around since he came back, but I haven't actually enjoyed Matt Hardy, and I don't like the gimmick. I don't know. I don't really care whether the gimmick was over initially. It's not over with me now. It's not gelling, and it's not making any sense. And I never thought I'd say this, but I actually kind of wish they didn't pick Matt Hardy up.
Yes and no. I'm not against Matt Hardy being there, but I think the whole TNA broken Matt Hardy just doesn't work here, and it's not working. And they've been pushing it on us for too long already, and especially in this match, it just didn't fit, and I just didn't enjoy it.
Don't get me
It made,
wrong. Don't get me wrong, man. I think that Matt Hardy's a great mind, and I think that he brings something to the table wherever he is. I just don't see where you go with him right now. If you get rid of this stupid woke gimmick, what else are you supposed to do? Nobody really wants to see Matt Hardy being Matt Hardy anymore, so he's going to have to come up with something completely new again. And
I'm not I'm not against the woke or broke stuff. I just the supernatural elements just don't fit well with Chris Jericho and the Elite.
or AEW really, like
Yeah, yeah, as the company as a whole, yeah.
you've got enough of that stuff going on anyway.
I mean, when he first debuted, or when we heard he was going to debut, I thought he was going to be the leader of the Dark Order.
Well, I
I thought
assumed that too. I thought that would be what was happening.
that would be more fitting if he turned heel and turned up as the leader of the Dark Order.
I actually thought that they were going to have Matt Hardy as the leader of the Dark Order. They were going to have Brody Lee as like part of the Bunny and Blade stable, and they were just going to have like a gang warfare between two weirdo groups. I thought that was what was going to happen. But
Yeah,
obviously
that would have
not.
been cool. That would have been cool. Marty Skull was going to be the leader of the Dark Order
I'm kind
initially. That was the plan.
kind of glad that he didn't do that. As much as I
Yeah,
like him, I don't think
he
he would have pulled that off.
he dodged a fucking bullet there. That would have been career suicide. I think. I think he's better off in Ring of Honor.
I think it really shows, as much as I've hated on the guy over the last couple of weeks, it really shows the testament to Brody Lee's ability to be able to manage to somehow get that gimmick over, at least for the short term. Didn't enjoy this Matt Hardy stuff at all. I liked the little funny Ortiz bit, but they were just it kind of nearly became same sort of Money in the Bank vibes, where they're
Yeah,
just sort of like hitting each other.
and that Kenny Mega makes the save, and then he gets thrown through a barricade. Proud and Powerful kind of slam him through the barricade, and then
Oh,
in the cut that you see, Santana looks like he's about to fall off the table. And I just want to add that, unlike WWE, where we theorized they shot this in one take, didn't give a fuck about Money in the Bank, and then shot it all in maybe an hour. I thought it was very clever how Santana definitely fell off that table. But to save face and to make him look strong over Omega, they managed to cut around it and they put some thought into the edit, so we didn't see the embarrassment of him falling on his ass.
oh yeah, this was so much more professional. Just even the opening visual of the two teams on the giant football field running against each other like on a battlefield, They quite obviously put thought and time and into this, and as you say, edited it well.
Well, yeah. On to your favorite bit then is the bar brawl.
Absolutely
So
love this.
Hager finds Paige backstage. Paige pours him a drink, and then they start brawling. And then Paige just becomes fucking Jackie Chan in an action movie here. He
This was a Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah,
Like
he was flipping around, diving over everything, being
so
thrown
cool.
onto everything,
That choke slam on the pool table was pretty brutal as well.
and then a pull cue goes over Hager's back, which looked awesome.
Yeah, I love this scene. It made Hangman Page. This whole match really made Hangman Page look like a fucking badass. And
I
that
think that was the idea, wasn't it, to make him look like a superstar?
they even did the stupid cowboy shit where like thrown through all of the stuff on the bar.
Yeah, he gets dragged all the way across the bar top, and onto the floor the other side. Kenny Omega again rushes in to make the save, and the two double team on Hager. The best bit being Kenny hits his V trigger and then he kind of bends over. Page does his buckshot lariat over Omega's back as the top rope.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was dope. That was
I
so cool.
I even like their stupid little comedy spot where they're having a whiskey and a milk. They're a
And
very
I think,
likable tag team together.
yeah, I think this scene was there to help solidify the story they're trying to tell. That Page is on the same page with Kenny Omega, his tag team champion. But the whole story, the whole split in the elite is he's got beef with the Young Bucks.
What to me, it just makes Hangman Page more likable as well because I've got beef with the Young Bucks.
You've always had beef with the Young Bucks.
Hate them.
So Sammy Guevara and Jericho are brawling with the Bucks back on the pitch. I think we missed it. It was earlier on in the match. Matt Jackson does a moonsault off of the goalposts.
With a
Which was
broken rib, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Jericho throws Nick Jackson into the head of a jaguar. But then after this, we get Chris Jericho picking a fight with the mascot.
His elbow lariat even looked vicious on a mascot. That's quite the compliment.
Oh,
Like
I've seen.
that poor guy couldn't even like see properly. He probably got knocked sparko from that elbow. Because it probably connected as far as I could see. Jericho's
And then,
really definitely trying to get this wizard hat over, isn't he?
he did that again.
Yeah,
That was the one thing I didn't like.
he's tried it a few times now. It's not working.
It was funny once. It was one of those dad jokes that's funny once. Just drop it, Jericho.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta admire the guy for trying every single week to find something new to be memeable, but this one is quite obviously not becoming a t-shirt.
Another thing I find kind of silly, but you said you liked it. Matt Jackson does this Northern Light suplex from one end of the field all the way to the other end of the field.
I don't know why. This just really tickled me. I don't know what it was about it. I don't like Nick Jackson or Matt Jackson, and I don't like either of them, and I don't like stupid comedy spots. But I think what had happened at this point was that they had successfully drawn me in to this stupid, crazy world where I no longer overly thought about the things that could be potentially damaging, which is very rare for a wrestling company to be able to do. And I just really love this spot. And I think it's also because Sammy Guevara at this point is the foil for everything, isn't he? He somehow manages to be the joke without being the joke.
He was the punching bag.
Yeah, but he's always the joke. Like he fell over, but he's not at a Sean Spears level at all. You still take him as a credible, whiny
Yeah.
heel threat when he has to be.
Yeah, he still feels important. He just feels like the weakest member of the inner circle, which he
Yeah.
is. He's the rookie, so it's his pecking order to be the one that gets beaten out. Up all
This
the time.
just descended into pure Family Guy territory at this point, with a Hangman Page with a line marker.
Yeah, so just before that, Nick Jackson runs all the way up a flight of stairs to run maybe slower all the way back down the flight of stairs to get a run up to jump off a balcony into Jericho on a table, which seems silly to me.
I think that you went into this in the wrong mood, maybe.
I
Because
think I did. I just went into this not expecting it to be one of these B movies, so I've become overly critical. I want to watch it again.
I think you should watch it again.
knowing what to expect.
I think that
That'd
you
be
probably
cool.
enjoy it a lot more because this is really kind of exactly what you wanted from the Money in the Bank, but didn't get. And maybe the Money in the Bank has left a sour taste in your mouth. But I was expecting you to like adore this, and I've already seen it 3 or 4 times.
I did have a lot of fun. I did enjoy a lot of it. I think I wasn't in the mood for the silliness, and that took me out of the match. But the paint marker thing that you said, Paige running the line marker over Jericho's face, was a lot of fun. And then the ending we have here, Sammy Guevara is the last man standing on the pitch. He thinks he's won, and he gets sprayed. He managed to get sprayed in the balls and the face at the same time with a sprinkler. And then he kind of backs himself up in line with Omega and Hardy in a golf court, and they're going to chase him down again. I laughed quite hard at this. This was my favorite part of the match. And then he manages to climb up the wall to safety, but Omega and Hardy chase him. They end up fighting on this like platform bit. Vanguard comes in, which causes the distraction. Omega hits a V trigger, and then he does a one-winged angel off of this balcony, dropping about 25 feet down onto this wooden structure that was obviously like had airbag underneath it for safety. But what a fucking drop!
Absolutely mental. I
Just a
haven't.
crazy ending.
I don't remember seeing a spot that looked that dangerous since I think Jeff Hardy dropped off the Titantron onto Randy Orton, like off of like a massive balcony thing. That it just looked so potentially life threatening. Like the way that, like if Kenny hadn't tucked Sammy's head properly, that could have gone really, really badly. But this is what I was talking about earlier in comparison to that shitty Darby Allin spot. What a visual that was. Like that was a massive drop. Gimmicked floor or not, like that was a massive, massive drop. And that looks, from every angle, that looks insane.
Well, even with the gimmicked crash pad for them, I was thinking the way the winged angel goes down, Kenny Omega knows where he's going to land. He knows when he's going to hit that mat. Sammy Guevara's just looking up at the air and free falling. Like, how fucking scary that must have been.
Terrifying, man.
Just not knowing when you're going to crash down. And then Omega gets the win. We both thought Paige was going to get the win in this.
Yeah, a bit surprised by that, but I guess Paige looked absolutely seriously cool throughout. So he didn't really need, like, they managed to successfully bring Paige back with effortlessness and make him look like the coolest person there. I don't know about you, but the guy I remember from this is Paige. So maybe it didn't matter so much. I think it's more likely that Omega came up with that spot and nobody else wanted to do it with any other move. So Omega did it, and therefore Omega won.
Do you think Sammy Guevara was the only person willing to take the spot?
Yeah, I do. It's quite clear that Sammy is willing to do anything, whether it's like ridiculously violent and dangerous or stupid comedy. And that's very much going to get him far, I think. It's going to get him in like big places.
Well, because you say the one person you think of is Hangman Page out of this match, but the one person I think of is Sammy Guevara out of this match, just because the amount of times he was on the losing end of all these big spots. But I'm not thinking of him as a loser. I'm just thinking of like how crazy this kid is doing all the big stuff.
Yeah, they managed to do the opposite of Money in the Bank, which is that everybody came out looking great while there was the same amount of comedy spots.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna rewatch it again because I think I was overly critical. I think I was just not ready for it, but it was fun.
I'd had quite a few beers by this point, so I very much enjoyed it.
But it looks like this Elite versus the Inner Circle story might have been rounded up, might have been done with this.
I think this is going to be one of those recurring feuds where it pops up like every 6 or 8 months, and kind of like understandably, like one day, like a year's time, Jericho could just turn around and say, "I hate those dickheads," and then they just start it again because it's in this weird sort of meta world where it's not serious and yet it is. They've got a strong enough combination of characters and like they've both built stables up that I think they'll definitely revisit this at some point. And obviously, eventually, it appears that Paige is going to be part of the Inner Circle. So I think they'll come back to this every 6 or 8 months.
So that's the Double or Nothing card. We've run through the whole thing now. I think it's been my favorite show of the quarantine era or the empty arena era.
Honestly, I think it's close to one of my favorite shows of the year in
Yeah.
general, before Corona as well. I've really, really enjoyed this show. Once I got over the slump of the ladder match, after the ladder match, I actually paused it because I was trying my very hardest for you specifically, Ben, to watch this objectively. And
Thank you.
I knew that if I watched that ladder match and then go straight into the rest of it, I would come at it with a different approach. So I took a break from it, came back, and then took another break later on, and that kind of made me enjoy everything after that ladder match. That was the only massive failure in my eyes.
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad.
Yeah, and I'm not really looking forward to Backlash with the greatest match of all time, which is definitely
No,
not going to be. And
I'm
not
gonna
only that, but you're feeding me Bobby Lashley in the main event. I just,
I'm gonna start watching the weeklies on the lead up to Backlash, so I know what's going on, and then we can watch Backlash. I'm gonna be a professional about this.
if you want, bro, I can go through Raw with you.
No, I'll watch it. We'll get it done.
Sure, if you want to, I'm offering here to just give you a brief update on Raw. But SmackDown last Friday, was actually a really decent show, and I preferred it a lot to the AEW Go Home show. I think that you have to remember now that SmackDown has become the number one show because it's on Fox. It's getting more attention, it's getting more views, and it's getting bigger numbers. So just think now, from now on, I know it's weird, but you have to think from now on that SmackDown is the new Raw.
Okay. Well, I'll pay more attention to SmackDown then.
I'm not saying that it's that good.
Next week on the podcast, we are going to be dissecting the greatest match that will ever happen.
Or if it was, or if it will be, what may be Edge's greatest match, Randy Orton's greatest match, what actually is the greatest match, or what maybe isn't the greatest match. All your Backlash love.
Edge versus Randy Orton at Backlash will be the greatest match that ever was,